Okay. So what we're going to do here is we're going to talk about the state of the program. We'll see if we're going to get any followers. So Wake Forest basketball season ended very terrible after 6 years under Steve Forbes. And I'm not sure why they decided not to change coaches. So that's for them to decide what they have done. So so I'm going to be discussing this, discussing why the state of the program of Wake Forest, where it's at, and where it may be going, the transfers, the people that are staying. And I tell you what, it's not really not looking good for the basketball program right now. Not looking good at all. So we're going to see if some people are coming in, and I'm ready to get this underway. So we're going to talk about the state of Wake Forest men's basketball program. This is for YouTube live broadcast. Tonight, questions continue to swirl around the direction, identity, and long-term stability of the Wake Forest men's basketball program. Once a proud ACC contender built on star power, player development, and a fiercely loyal fan base, the Demon Deacons are now finding themselves at a crossroads, competitive on some nights, inconsistent on others, and searching for the spark that once made the program nationally feared. That hasn't really happened since the days of Skip Prosser. Skip Prosser revitalized and redone that program when he was here. But ever since he had passed away, the men's basketball program went down under. The football program has risen. It started under Jim Grove, continued under Dave Clawson, and now taking it to the next level under Jake Dickard. In year one, he took them to the Mayonnaise Bowl, you might call it. It's called the Duke's Mayonnaise Mayo Bowl, and he did a good job. But now the basketball program, the men's basketball program, I mean, it is really in deep trouble. And unless the fans get together and find out what they're going to do, and I can't say what you should do, but y'all need the voice, y'all are the voice of the basketball program, and you Deacon fans or fans who love Wake Forest, even if you are other, even if you have another team that you like, but you like Wake Forest, and you say, hey, this team under Steve Forbes is not doing great. What should we do to correct this thing? You know, most people think that Steve Forbes needs to be fired. Others think that it's not his fault. It's the NIL. He don't have the money to bring in the players. And there's a lot of other things that they're saying. You know, but there's only two things: either it's his fault or it's not. I mean, it can't be, it can't be both. It can't be one or the other. It got to be one or the other because I think it's not looking good right now for for Wake Forest basketball program because a lot of players have leaving. And I think it's because of Steve Forbes. Most people think it's got to do with money, but I don't think so. Um, it's because they've come so close over the last few or so years of going to the big dance, but all they've done is end up at NIT. Last year they didn't go to the NIT; they opted out. This year they decided to go, and they won one game, and they lost the other one. Low attendance at the NIT games. There wasn't very many people there. Fans decided to opt out of going, and I don't know the reason why exactly, except my opinion, and this is just my opinion, it has to do with the state of the program. Whether it has anything to do with Steve Forbes, I don't know. Could be. I mean, I can give you my personal opinion. I'll give you that at the end of the show. But we can't have this if you're a Wake Forest supporter, whether you're alumni, Deacon Club member, or your ticket holder, you come to the games, whether you come to the games and you buy single tickets, whatever whatever Deacon fan you are, long time, short term, we can't have that. And it's just something that we need to correct, and uh, and that's up to John Curry, and that's up to Steve Forbes to sit down together and figure out what they're going to do, how they're going to do this. How about the people that are giving money? I mean, they need an NIL fund for the basketball program as well as the football program. They're spending a lot of money on football with all the stuff going on, the building and the new scoreboard and all that stuff that's going on. They're really spending money for that, but uh, but they're leaving the money out. People are not giving. People are not spending any money on the men's basketball program. So, but in recent seasons, Wake Forest has shown flashes of promise, including standout individual performances and stretches of high efficiency offense. But those moments have been overshadowed by late season fades, missed NCAA tournament opportunities, and growing frustration among fans who remember the glory years of Tim Duncan, Chris Paul, Randolph Childress, and the late Skip Prosper's electric era. So at the center of the conversation is head coach Steve Forbes, whose tenure has produced both optimism and skepticism. Supporters point to improved recruiting pipelines, transfer portal success, and a modernized offensive system. Critics argue that the program has plateaued, failing to break through in the ACC standards or return to the national stage. Complicating matters further is the upcoming leadership transition at Wake Forest University as President Sidney Winter prepares to step down later this year. Athletic department stability, the financial commitment required to compete in today's NIL drivers landscape remain open questions. Some insiders believe major decisions about the basketball program may hinge on new university leadership and the direction they choose to take. Meanwhile, fans continue to voice a mix of hope and concern. Many believe Wake Forest has the resources, tradition, and recruiting footprint to rise again. but acknowledged that the ACC is no longer the conference where small mishaps or missteps go unnoticed. In an era defined by rapid roster turnover and escalating competition, the margin for error is thinner than ever. For the now, the Demon Deacons remain a program in transition, not broken, but not fully rebuilt, not irrelevant yet, but not yet restored. And the next few months, from recruiting decisions to administration hires, many may determine whether Wake Forest begins a true resurgence or continues researching for its identity in one of the college basketball's toughest conferences. Reporting from Winston, this is a special look at the state of Wake Forest men's basketball. So I'm going to go further, but I want to give you my understanding of where I see it. If things doesn't change, then there's some other changes that need to be made. Maybe in the athletic department somewhere. Maybe somewhere where people in the administration has say so. And this can only happen when the new president comes in. He'll evaluate everything and he will decide on the programs, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, whatever sport it is. But the focus is probably going to be on the basketball because this really took a dive. It's taking a dive because Wake Forest it needs to have an identity in basketball, and they don't. They used to, but they don't. So the state of the Wake Forest men's basketball program, 2026 roster reset. Here's what we got. Tonight, the Wake Forest men's program stands at a defining crossroads, navigating one of the most dramatic roster reshuffles of the Steve Forbes era, with a wave of new transfers, with a wave of transfers leaving, and all the departures and all that stuff. Deacons are rebuilding identity to the ground up. So these are the players that are going to be leaving Wake Forest. These are the deep transfer classes. They're outgoing. Omaha Blue, an elite athletic forward with high ceiling potential. JUKE, dynamic guard, bringing pace and creativity. COLVIN, long switchable winner defender. Underwood, steady cerebral point guard. ATKINS, MARION, SCHWIEGER, Cross. All these players were good. Then we have the ones that will be uh, graduating. These players are going to be graduating. Spillers, MEKHI, CALMESE, and KMETY. If I'm pronouncing it right, if I'm not, I'm sorry. But they're departing about the end of a veteran corps that carries significant minutes and locker room presence. But here are the ones that are staying, that are left. Beard, CARR, KOVACECIC, and whatever you call it. I've never seen them play, but RICHHUTI, y'all guys might can help me out on this one. Anyway, these exits, these are not exits. These are people that are staying though. Yeah, staying is Beard, CARR, Kovac, Richie. These four remain part of the Wake Forest roster moving forward. So here's the segment. Rebuild or reload or bust. So we got 8 outgoing transfers, 4 graduates, and 4 staying players. So we moved to rebuild, reload, or bust. Winston-Salem was not quiet tonight. Winston-Salem is still reeling over the basketball program. But at the same time, they're looking forward to their football team getting ready for the fall. They're excited about that. So it's not with the kind of roster shakeup Wake Forest just lived through, not with the question hanging over years of 7 of the Steve Forbes era. 7 is coming up. And not with the fan base asking the only question that matters, is this a rebuild, just a reload, or just bust territory? So let's break it down clean. So our outgoing transfers are in the X's. 8 players that left the program through the transfer portal as this live. Omaha, JUKE, COLVIN, Underwood, ATKINS, MARION, SCHWIEGER, and Cross. That's not a tweak, that's not a shuffle. That's a full roster evaluation. So the 4 graduates are Spillers, MEKHI, CALMESE, and KMETY. Well, anyway, leaders gone, minutes gone, experience gone. However you pronounce their names, we can spell Spillers, okay? The other 4 graduates. Spillers was probably the one, it was one of the starters. So that's the key with that's graduating. The 4 who are staying, I won't even try to, Beard, CARR, and a few others that, nobody probably knows about. They are contingency, they are holdovers, and they are the starting point. Not much of a starting point. It's not much of a starting point at all. They lost the best players going into the transfer portal. Omaha. So let's go back to it. Omaha, Billow, JUKE, COVIN, ATKINS, SCHWIEGER. Those are the ones they depended on. And Spillers, who graduated. And CALMESE, he did a pretty good job too. But 2 of those good ones that I just mentioned, Spillers and CALMESE, they're graduating. The other ones, one we expected to at least stay with JUKE, but he decided to move on. He's going into transfer portal, but also going to enter the NBA draft. So hopefully he'll go to the NBA draft, and that'll be a good thing. But we don't want him going to another college team. That's kind of like Sam Hartman, who was the quarterback for Wake Forest under Dave Clawson. Instead of going to the NFL, he decided to go to Notre Dame for his last year. That could end up being the same way. So I admit I'm not very good at pronouncing some of these names. They're kind of odd names. I have to study up on these names, I guess. But but it's kind of a weird thing, to have to try to pronounce some of these names. Of course, even professional broadcasters, they get it wrong too sometimes. Well, I think they practice these names ahead of time. So sometimes they mispronounce names. But anyway, besides that, we're going to move on. So reload, does it even apply? Reloading means you replace what you've lost with equal or better talent immediately. But with the level of all outgoing movement, Wake Forest isn't reloading the roster, they're replacing the roster. Reload, not yet. Bust, the pressure point, this is where the conversation gets real. If your 7 doesn't show a clear identity, a competitive AC presence, a path back to national relevance, then the narrative shifts from rebuild to bust, not for the players, but for the era. Because after this much turnover, the results must match the reset. So what is the verdict? The verdict, rebuild with bust potential if it fails. Wake Forest is not reloading. Wake Forest is not stable. Wake Forest is rebuilding brick by brick from the ground up. But if this rebuild doesn't produce results, the conversation changes fast. So what did the conversation change to? I mean, there's a lot of things that we could talk about, a lot of things that we could assume. So the bottom line is, does Steve Forbes go after year 7? Here's the real state of it. If year 7 shows progress, he stays. Progress doesn't mean a miracle run. It just means a clear identity, a competitive AC record, a roster that looks connected, momentum, not excuses. And if Wake Forest looks like it's moving forward, the administration will keep him. Stability matters in the NIL and portal era. If year 7 collapses, it becomes bust territory with 8 outgoing transfers, 4 graduates, the roster being rebuilt from the ground up. Year 7 becomes the make or break season for the Forbes era. And if the team struggles early, shows no identity, falls to the bottom of the ACC, misses the postseason again, then yes, the conversation shifts from rebuild to time to move on. The truth nobody wants to say out loud. Year 7 is the evaluation year, not year 8, not year 9, year 7. The lease is not infinite. The patience is not endless, and the roster turnover has forced the issue. So the final verdict, if Forbes doesn't show a real step forward in year 7, he's gone. If he does, he buys himself more time. This is the most pressure-packed season of this Wake Forest tenure because when the new president comes in, he's going to evaluate. He's going to see what's going on. And we don't know what's going to happen with the new president. But we'll find out. We'll find out what kind of president for Wake Forest has. Will he be a dividend Wenthy? Will he give, will the new president give Steve Forbes another opportunity in year 8? I don't think so. Not when he reevaluates that he's been there for 7 years and he hasn't done anything. Because he's going to evaluate these 6 years. And 7 years is going to be a turning point for the Wake Forest basketball program. So everybody, they're going to look forward to the football season. They're going to come and they're going to enjoy the football season. And then lingering down the road starts the new chapter of the men's basketball program. Who's going to come in? Who's going to replace the ones that left? How about the ones that are staying right now? Are they going to decide to leave? Because the ones that graduated, they're gone. And then the eight that are leaving, they're gone. They're going somewhere. Because they want to go somewhere where they can win. Go to the big dance. But we'll find out what's going on. We'll find out. So I just thought that I'd come on here and give you the state of the program and find out what is going on. Because just wanted to update you on what was going on the transfers. I've got them right down on the bottom of the screen there. And so I'm going to end this. I hope you have a good weekend. And hope you got something out of this. Forget that I didn't pronounce some of these players right. Maybe you can call me on the phone or tell me, hey, call me and I'll teach you how to pronounce these words. Anyway, y'all have a great day. God bless you. And see you next time on another topic. Because I'm done with this topic. It's just, I have no more to say about it. And I hope some of the people at Wake Forest listen to what I got to say.